So I'm doing a video on my smartphone. My PC has barfed all over itself. I don't know what the problem is, but I'll have to look into that. I just wanted to do a short video about my history with Christianity and my personal exposure. I think some folks, they think I've been an atheist my whole life, or they wonder what gives me the right to quote Bible verses or point out issues with Christianity since I'm an atheist. Well, let me tell you, as far back as I can remember being a little tyke, there was always Christianity, churches, and prayers. When I was 6 or 7, I was at Vacation Bible School at a Baptist church, and they did an altar call at the end, and a bunch of kids went down and were crying and giving their lives to Jesus, and I was one of them. So I did the whole Baptist church thing, Sunday school, where they teach you and then you have to answer questions, and it's part of the whole indoctrination thing. As I got to be 9, 10, 11 years old, I would say, after my folks' divorce, my biological father decided he was a Seventh-day Adventist. So I was going to an Adventist church on Saturdays when I was with him, and then sometimes I'd go to the Baptist church on Sunday. Meanwhile, through all this, I'm going to a private Christian school. I started in first grade. Donelson Christian School is what it was called at the time. That was around 1976. And we actually had Bible class. And my old report cards show we actually got graded and some of that stuff. So through elementary school and I believe part of middle school, there was definitely Bible class being taught at this Christian Bible school, which eventually became an academy, Donelson Christian Academy. But I was there from first grade till 10th grade. So, I mean, there's 10 straight years of Bible stuff right there. Christian, prayers and whatnot. Plus, I'm getting it at church. When I was 16, started going to Tulip Grove Baptist Church in Hermitage. Got to be a big active participant in the youth group. Went on some mission trips. Went to one in Houston. Went to inner city Houston, where I taught Vacation Bible School to inner city kids. And we fixed up a rundown playground and a gymnasium and stuff. And anyways, the youth pastor at the time was like, "Hey, Jonathan, you got what it takes. You should consider becoming a pastor. You should consider, instead of going to regular college, you should go to seminary." And I seriously thought about it. I got to be a leader in the youth group and studied pretty hard, read the Bible, studied into it. That's when I really got into studying the original Hebrew text, the Old Testament, and getting into the Greek and the Aramaic original versions of the New Testament, and getting into the original translations, learning a lot about the writers, the so-called writers of these books, and I just was unsure, So I went on to college. I went to MTSU. And one of the first things I did is I found the Baptist Student Union, started going there in my part-time while I was delivering pizzas and taking classes. And, it just, the more I studied the Bible, the more it looked impossible. And then it started looking ridiculous. And some of the verses, the original translations really expose some things. And I think one of the things that really cracked it for me was there's some stuff in the New Testament that if you read it in the original Greek, you realize that there's parts that are referencing other books that were not included in the Bible, that were left out. And these other books were pretty popular with the books in the Bible back in Jesus' time or right after the supposed crucifixion. I mean, some of these books were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's the Conference of Nicaea that decided which books would be put in and which ones were left out. But there's teaching and there's references to these books that were left out in the ones that are in the Bible. I don't know if you, it's pretty deep, man. You get into it, and then you really start to see the whole thing unravel. And being that I was indoctrinated as a kid and never questioned it, and just was constantly exposed and taught, you know, I never really got into it until I got to the point in my life where I was trying to decide what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Would I actually pursue seminary or not? And I just wanted to make sure that I knew what I was getting into before I committed. And it just started coming apart. Well, a little later in life, you know, I wouldn't say I became an atheist right then. I'd say I was more of an agnostic. I kind of flip-flopped around back and forth through the 90s. And I don't know, eventually I even played bass in a Christian rock band. I was really trying hard to believe again and to recommit. When I was 16, I recommitted my life to Christ, and I was baptized at Tulip Grove Baptist. And I thought back to that time, you know, I was trying to get to that place. But every time I open up the Bible, you know, to get into quote unquote God's Word, it just seemed more and more ridiculous and impossible. And so I would say maybe 2003 or 4 maybe, I just started slipping away, and I just couldn't buy into it anymore. It's just ridiculous. I mean, and it's hard, you know, you can go your whole life and not see the obvious things because you're just so into it, you know. I want to use the term brainwashed, but I know it sounds offensive to believers, but you know what? I've made this video to say, look, I was a believer. I was an active participant to the point to where I was going to commit my life. I was into it, man, for years, and it just unraveled as I got older and studied harder. You know, you hear people say, you know, get into the Word and read the Bible, and I did, and it didn't strengthen things; it tore it down. And then you get on the other side of it, and you're like, you know, nobody can walk on water. It's ridiculous. Snakes can't talk. You know, and then it becomes just obvious. But being that I was on the other side for so long, I see why people are there. I see why people stay there. I see why people commit their whole lives to it. Also, on being on this side of it, I see the dangers of religion and the negative aspects of it. Anyways, I think it's it's crazy. I mean, the whole religion thing. And it's not just Christianity, but you know, the whole Islam thing and the Quran. I've read parts of the Quran, and it's nutty, and it's violent. but it's also BS. And I've looked into the Hinduism and stuff, and it's crazy. And religion is just it's fairy tales. That's it. It helps people. Some people get through life. It helps them cope with things, but it can also motivate people to be really horrible and hurt people physically and emotionally. Anyways, yeah. So there it is. What do you think?